Nobody expected it. Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it.
Boxing is the swill barrel of sports. It's a dirty racket in many instances, and that's the way it's going to be.
How many of the 6 fighters that everybody knows has had who have been popped? Well, maybe something is up. I mean, 6 fighters, I'm scratching my head thinking, well, somebody's guilty in that camp. Somebody is.
Ron was with Derek James when he popped. And when Canelo popped, he was being promoted by Oscar. So it can go either way. People can say that Ryan and Canelo popped while he was promoted by Oscar. Are Golden Boy complicit in sending their fighters out there juiced up? Is there something more sinister about Eddie Reynoso's training methods? Jermall Charlo said that Canelo was still microdosing the clenbuterol. He said he's made the commute from Texas to Mexico. So he obviously eats over there, and he said he's never got popped for nothing. Canelo is microdosing. Now there's been arguments that it would be no point microdosing because the amounts you're consuming by microdosing are not going to give you performance enhancing advantages. But is that so? If you're microdosing over a long period, you might not get the same advantage like taking a whole lot of clenbuterol at once, but some is better than nothing, surely. An adverse finding of testosterone metabolites. Margaret Goodman from VADA will not make no further comments, neither will Jaime Munguia. Jaime, wisely, not saying nothing until the B sample is released because he's hoping the B sample will provide a get out of jail contamination verdict. But that's unlikely.
You are cooked.
The result of his last fight is heading for a no contest. He outpointed Sarase in Riyadh, who previously knocked him out. The only disappointment for me is how well Jaime rebounded from the knockout loss from Sarase, and then you find out the metabolites are responsible for how good he looked. But I don't think no one's really shocked. It's no major surprise. Another boxer pops. Another Eddie Reynoso trained fighter pops. I'm not saying that makes Eddie suspicious. It's just no surprise. So when more details come up, when the B sample comes up, which should be soon, I'll drop a couple more bars then.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
Can do it better.
I had to go to BoxRec to get more context of Marijan Akhmadaliev's performance on Friday. Akhmadaliev moves to 13 wins, 10 decided distance and 1 loss. He defeated an individual named Luis Castillo, who had 31 wins, 20 knockouts, 6 losses, and had never been stopped going into the fight. Now we know that this is a tune-up, a stay-sharp fight for Akhmadaliev, who will next challenge Nayor Inoue for the undisputed 122-pound titles. Akhmadaliev stopped the Mexican in the 8th round, scored 2 knockdowns, one in the 5th, one in the 6th. Then a final combination of punches prompted Castillo's trainer to throw in the towel. As the Ring magazine says here, Akhmadaliev took a measured approach to his relatively easy fight with Castillo. And perhaps they're right. Perhaps he could have ended it before he did. The crowd got a little bit impatient with either Akhmadaliev or Castillo. Probably Akhmadaliev. He's the away fighter. But the way Gabe Rosado was commentating on the fight was like Akhmadaliev is auditioning for the Inoue fight. He's not auditioning. He's the mandatory challenger. Gabe was asking Akhmadaliev just to rush in there and take the guy out. Did Akhmadaliev hurt his hand? If he had rushed his work, it could have likely have been a very untidy affair. He could have got cut. And he got the job done in the 8th. I guess the Mexican fans, they want crash bang all the time. And that's fair enough. But I thought he did okay. Thought he did okay. He's not auditioning for the gig. He's got the gig already. He didn't throw much combinations. Fair enough. But he was able to walk Castillo into the significant punches that did land from the southpaw stance. His backhand was pretty accurate, and anytime it looked like Castillo was getting too comfortable, something significant came back from Akhmadaliev. And the question now, I guess, is what kind of test can he provide Inoue? Or will he provide a test for Inoue? He's more versatile than Cardenas and Luis Neri, who have both had Inoue on the canvas and hurt at 122 in recent fights. Does he have the type of power to keep Inoue honest though? But from a technical standpoint, I would argue this is one of Inoue's toughest fights. Yeah, I would do, especially at 122.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
Can do it better.
KHALIL Cole claimed he was dealing with a lot of body issues and internal problems. He was hospitalized twice before his first fight with Manuel Gallegos, November last year. And he was stopped in the 9th round. He rebounded on Friday, travelled all the way to Mexico to avenge the loss by a 6th-round TKO. And while we hear a lot of boxers making excuses for when they underperform, watching how KHALIL turned the tables in this one, he may have not had an ideal camp for the November fight, because this time around he gave Gallegos a boxing lesson, a harsh lesson in how effective the jab alone can be. That jab busted Gallegos' face up by the end of the first round and tormented him for the rest of the bout. Gallegos, in I guess what was a minor upset, knocked Cole to the canvas 4 times in the first fight, in the 5th, 7th, and 8th and 9th rounds. The fight finally being stopped in the 9th. That was on the undercard of Ennis versus Shakadzian. In hindsight, if his training camp was that bad, Cole, he should have withdrawn from the fight, but these experiences will either build you up or break you down. Gallegos couldn't come out for the 6th round. Gallegos, as the commentary team pointed out, you have to wonder how he made 168, where he was stopped by Diego Pacheco, because he's a big light heavy. In saying that, Cole is not a big 175 pounder. Gallegos likes to come forward, moving his upper body from left to right and letting his hands go. But that jab had him firmly placed on the back foot, under manners. The jab worked so well, like snapping his head back, busting his face up. Like Cole actually forgot to go to the body because the jab was working so well. His corner had to tell him, yo, you got to whack him to the body. And he did that, and he was successful there too. Landed some great right hands. For me personally, it was the performance of the weekend. Rebounding from that stoppage loss 6 months or so ago, I was impressed.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
Can do it better.
So Mike Coppinger basically wrote off the Charlo Caleb Plant fight after Caleb lost to Armando Resendiz. And what's strange is there were fans saying, why are you saying the fight has fallen through the wayside? Well, for a start, yeah, Caleb struggled against Trevor McCumbee last time out and was outpointed by David Benavidez before that. He's an inactive, aging fighter who's not hot at this moment. Now, JERMALL, he beat Thomas Lamana, stopped him in the 6th, as expected. He's had 2 fights in the last 4 years. So what? Are you going to pay for that pay-per-view? Because that's what PBC do. If you think that fight is good value for money, you're an idiot. Mike Coppinger was 100% right. Commercially, that fight has fallen through the wayside. Caleb wasn't supposed to lose yesterday. If they're going to put that on pay-per-view, they're going to need some trinket to try and sell it. That's what the PBC do. Don't you see David Benavidez connecting all them baby belts, them regular belts, them interim belts? They needed that WBA interim belt, which Resendiz has right now, not only to sell the fight, but to give the winner some leverage to negotiate a fight with the winner out of Crawford and Canelo. Can it happen? Yes, but not for the person they're going to be asking for. You think Caleb's ego will have been humbled enough to accept the money that fight's worth now? No, he's a PBC fighter. He still thinks that he's a valuable commodity on the chessboard. They could put it on Amazon if they're prepared to take very small guarantees. But Kaylin got that pretty thing. She looked kind of high maintenance. And Charlo, he's got child support issues. They're not going to take the type of money that fight is worth now. And the boxing fans don't understand that. How about Caleb try and rematch the guy who just beat him for the WBA belt? Or how about Charlo challenge the guy who beat Caleb? How about that? They should have just matched Caleb and JERMALL yesterday. They've been so inactive. They should have just took the opportunity when they were active to put them in against each other there and then. But I don't know if we ever see that fight. Charlo still wants to fight. Of course he does, because Caleb boxed him in his face. But if they're still trying to sell the fight off that incident, why didn't they just make it without them having warm-ups? Don't let them have no more warm-ups. They're inactive, aging fighters. And them losing to anyone you put them in the ring with is not an impossibility right now. Charlo's opponent, Lamana, responded very peculiar when he was hit with any hard shots and was on the canvas several times, and they didn't allow him to come out for the 6th. Charlo's jab looked okay. He's always had a good jab. Caleb, just like against Benavidez, he started off okay, but that gas tank just imploded on him, and that's what happened against Canelo. So at 32, I don't know where Caleb goes from here. I don't think he'll retire. He was hurt badly midway through the contest and he didn't seem to recover. I like Resendez's performance. He kept it simple. Just keep throwing punches at Caleb, back him up, and he's likely not to provide you too much issues. As for it being a split decision, no. Resendez won the fight clearly.
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
So Teofimo Lopez threatening to quit the sport. Can't take that too seriously. So it looks like Turkey tried to make the Boots Ennis fight, but Boots, last year, he turned down a fight at 154 to fight Virgil Ortiz, saying he's going to stop at welterweight. And now Turkey has tried to make the Boots Teofimo Lopez fight. There are signs that Boots doesn't want to fight at 147 right now, so it's probably confusing for Turkey. Now, Brian Norman Jr., the WBO 147-pound champion, on the 19th of this month, he travels to Japan and takes on Sasaki, defending his title. Barrios, in July, takes on Pacquiao in Las Vegas. I don't believe Eddie and Boots. When I say I don't believe, I'm skeptical about them saying they're not going to fight at 147. I think they're going to stall taking any non-unifications at 147. They're going to wait for Brian Norman to fight Sasaki. If he's successful, then they're going to revisit that fight. Wouldn't it be something? Pacquiao beat Barrios, and Brian Norman and Boots meet up, and the winner fights Pacquiao for undisputed. That'd be crazy.
Crazy!
Tell you what, I haven't heard Mario Barrios once say he's interested in fighting Boots Ennis. Not once. And that's his decision. He can fight who he wants. He's going in the ring. But Manny was talking about fighting Boots once he's dusted off Barrios. Now, I'm going to assume Manny goes in as a big outsider, but I know it's running through your head like it is mine. What if Pacquiao beats Barrios? So, Teo doesn't look like he's getting the Boots fight. Turkey then turned his attention to the possibility of Teo fighting Devin Haney. Teo didn't like the offer that Turkey made for that fight, and he's probably frustrated with Turkey, thinking he could have paid Boots the type of money where he couldn't turn down a fight with him. Did he call Turkey a dictator? Then he took the tweet down, then he apologised. Teo, a former unified champion at 135, a 140-pound champion currently. When's the last time Teo scored a stoppage? It's been a while, isn't it? He's a good fighter, and he's got some good wins, and he's got some good skills, but if you were to ask, where does Teo belong? Is he up there with Usyk, Crawford, Bivol, Inoue, Canelo? Or is he just a bracket below that? Why can't he get the big fights? The two fights we spoke about here were against African Americans. Is it a backlash because of some of the stuff he's been saying that people would deem racially insensitive? Or is the business just not right for them two fights? Is Boots ducking Teo, thinking this could be a banana skin, doesn't fancy it? Can't dismiss that discussion. Some people believe it would be a one-sided fight and Teo would come off worse. If Teo had a strap at 147, I have no doubt Boots would have fought him. But right now, they have to look at it like this. Even if Boots wasn't tight at the weight, every time you go in the ring, it's a risk. They are playing risk-reward. And if they're going to take any risks at 147, the purse must be either extra exorbitant or they're going for a unification. Or are Matchroom and Boots telling the truth? Is this time up at 147? I can't stand looking at the boxing rankings these days. So IBF champion Akhmadaliev. The WBA have got Terence Crawford as the champion, Yonis Tellez the interim champion, and Jamel Charlo the champion in recess. WBC Sebastian Fundora champion and Virgil Ortiz interim champion. The WBO championship is vacant, but they've still got Terence Crawford's name in the red box as the interim champion. I mean, if the main title's vacant, why would you even insert the interim champion in the red box? Just frustrating. So if Boots was to move up to 147, the Akhmadaliev fight would definitely be there for him. And obviously the Virgil Ortiz fight. And obviously Sebastian Fundora holds the full WBC title over Virgil Ortiz. That fight's there too. and maybe the champion in recess, Jermall Charlo. They've still got Crawford as the full champion with the WBA, interim champion WBO, but his next fight's at 168. All these fights in America falling through. Boots versus Teo. Teo versus Devin. It's not just in America, just boxing period. Devin versus Ryan. Jermall versus Plant. A lot of these fights are falling through because for some reason they're making the two fighters have interim fights before they go in the ring. When in a lot of circumstances, like I mentioned earlier, why did they not just put KHALIL in with Jermall? Like Wilder and AJ, 2023. Why are you giving them interim fights? Just put them in. They're deep into their 30s now. We've been waiting for that fight for how long? Just put them in. And Wilder obviously fumbled the bag. Teo? I don't feel sorry for Teo. He could have made a unification against Richardson, but he thought he was too big for that. And now the likes of Boots is acting like he's too big for Teo. What goes around comes around. Sometimes these fighters literally play with their food when selecting what fights they're going to take, and then often they end up having to take a crap fight as a result. I mean, Richardson Hitchens, he's got his big headliner at the MSG, literally a few days away against George Kambosos. What kind of performance is he going to put on? Can he follow up that Liam Paro performance, which I think went under the radar? It was actually a great display of boxing, in my opinion. And Richardson, while winning, first and foremost, he needs to put himself in the shop window. Put Gary Antoine, Russell, Puello, and Teofimo Lopez on alert. Teo, he could fight Gary Antoine Russell. That's a good fight. Puello, that's a good fight. They're good fights. A lot of these fighters need to stop acting like their shit don't stink. And they're beyond taking certain fights. They were talking about making that Richardson Hitchens Teofimo Lopez fight for a little while. And in terms of who needed it more for their profile, Richardson did. So it was Teo playing risk reward. Because probably in Teo's mind and his dad's mind, okay, Boots is struggling at 147. Let's see if we can get him in the ring and take advantage of that, which you're supposed to do as a boxer, actually. A lot of people frown on that. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be an opportunist. You're not supposed to wait until the sun is coming out your opponent's ears before you fight him. You take advantage of everything you can. And fair play, Teo called out Boots. The fight didn't happen. Why not try and unify in the division where you've got a belt and there's fighters waiting for big fights like Gary Antoine Russell, Puello, and Richardson? Whether it's right or not, I also have a sneaking suspicion that the likes of Turkey, Bob Arum, his promoter, and a lot of the industry just may not have a lot of time for Teo either. And is that affecting his opportunities?